in this tutorial, we're going to walk through building a directive in Ionic 2, but I'm going to try something a little bit different this time. I was originally going to just write a tutorial on creating a directive for the blog, but I thought, why not have a go at just recording me making it from scratch. So I don't really have any idea how this thing is going to work yet. I just have a vague idea of what I want it to do. But I thought it might be interesting to see, I guess, the process of how I might go about creating something in a real scenario. I guess when I usually create tutorials about things, I do them beforehand. I know how they work. I know that they will work. But this, I don't even know. Maybe I'll run into some blocking issue that I just can't solve. So we'll see what happens and see if we get something interesting out of it. So the basic idea is I want to make this directive called absolute drag, and I want to be able to attach that directive to any element and then have that element be absolutely positioned and have the ability to drag and move that anywhere in its container. Now, when dealing with something like a drag event, like a pan event, like scrolling, there's a lot of events that get fired off all at once. So this is going to have similar issues to the parallax header directive I've made previously, and I've got that up here. And so the problem with doing stuff like this is that because it updates so frequently, you could be firing off 20 events a second to update its position. That can cause problems with lag in the layout. Constantly sort of performing these update operations can cause some choppiness. So in the case of scrolling, if you're trying to update the position sign every time a scroll event is fired, it's going to cause some jankiness. And so that's what Ionic have put a lot of effort into solving. And more recently, Adam Bradley's talked about this DOM write event that they've added. This is specifically to the scroll event here in the content area. But basically what DOM write allows us to do is perform our updates in the most efficient way possible. So rather than us just updating the position of something on the screen immediately as soon as we say let's do this now, it'll wait and it will organize it so that it fits in with the flow of how everything is rendering. So that's going to make it perform a lot better, especially on lower performing devices like Android devices. I've run this parallax header directive on Android device. I think it was like a 4.1.1 Android, and it performed fine. There may have been like some slightly noticeable choppiness, but very little amount, and it is a very bad phone in general, so it was quite impressive. So I'm going to try to use a similar concept for this drag directive. So to start off with, I already have a project up here. I'm just going to create the directive first. So we'll run Ionic G directive, and I'll call it absolute drag. And then I'm just going to add that into the app module file here. So I'll import that and then just add it to the declarations array. Okay, so let's start thinking about how we want to build this thing. So I'm going to try and do a simple implementation of it first. I'll just try and place let's go with a button, I guess, or anything really. We'll just add it to the content area of a page, and we'll try and make it so that we can drag it around. And I'll probably do a text tutorial of this as well on the blog with some more, I guess, thoughts afterwards, perhaps cleaning it up a bit, but hopefully hopefully we can get something that works pretty well in this video. So let's just clean up some stuff in here a bit first. And then what I might do is jump into where we're going to actually use it, and I guess come up with a hypothetical scenario of what we want that to look like, how we want to be able to use the directive. So I will just go with a button for now. So we'll do an ion button, and then we'll also attach the directive, which was absolute drag. You can see the selector here is absolute drag. So if I add that, here, that will apply that directive to this button, and I'll just say drag me. Now, since this is going to be absolutely positioned, then we may want to supply some initial values for it. So I'm going to add in some options so that you can specify here where on the screen it should start. And for the sake of just keeping things simple for now, I'm just going to use some manual pixel values to specify the left and the top values. So maybe we'll just use something called start left. I'll put that at 20 and start top rather. So that's going to specify the distance that it should be absolutely positioned from the left and from the top of the container. So now that we have that vague idea in mind, let's try and build the directive itself. Actually, before I even do that, I might just serve the application right now so we can see this directive is being loaded in and that we haven't managed to break anything already. Okay, so we have our drag me button there. I'll open up the console, and it looks like we had that the console statement from the directive, so that implies that it's active, it's working, and cool. So we can just try to make it work now. So the first thing I'm going to do is set up those initial left and top values that we could supply into this directive. So what we want to do is I'm going to add an ng on init here. Actually, I guess I'll do after view init, so the view is ready for that. So we're going to grab those configuration values and then set the absolute positioning of the element, the host element, to whatever those values were. And so we're going to have to grab both of these, of course, so we're going to use the input property to do that. So we're just going to import input first, and then we'll grab it with by just supplying the name of the inputs that we're using here. So start left, and we'll just call that start left, and start right, and we'll call that start right. And so let's just check that we actually are able to get those values. So I'll just log out this dot start left and this dot start right to make sure that's working. Jump back in the browser, see what happens. So we've got one of them. The other one's undefined for some reason. What did I do? Of course it's start top, not start right. We'll just go through, oops. Let's go through and change those. And we'll check again. Alright, okay, so we have both those values now. Now we want to set them on the host element that the directive is attached to. So what we can do is we can grab a reference to the element that the directive is attached to with element ref. And we're going to use something called the renderer to change some properties on that. You can just change the properties directly without using renderer, but the renderer is a more sort of platform agnostic way to make the changes. So Angular is kind of designed to work in other environments besides just JavaScript. So you can do it in a JavaScript way, or you can kind of do it in the Angular way, which is more adaptable. So we're going to inject both of those into the constructor now. So I'll create a reference to the element as element, and we'll just create a reference to the renderer as well. I'm just going to delete that console log statement for now. I don't really need that. And now we're just going to use the set element style on the renderer to set these values. So we can do this dot renderer dot set element style, and then we supply the element that we are styling, which will be the element, which is the reference to the host element, which is the button, and then we need to grab that native element. And the property we want to set first is position, and I want to set that to absolute. So let's save that, and we'll just check that that value is applying that absolute positioning. Okay, so I've just got the console up here, and we can see that we have absolute being applied to the button, which is exactly what we want, so that's cool. So now let's move on to doing the other two values, which is going to be the left and the top for positioning the absolute positioning. So we'll do the same thing again. this.renderer.setElementStyle, this.element.nativeElement, and we'll set the left property to whatever this is. So we'll set it to this dot start left, and we'll add. Actually, we don't even need to add pixels onto the end of that. Let's see if that works. I'm not sure. Save that, and we'll just inspect that again. Where's that button? There we go. No, yeah, I think I have to add pixels there. So we'll add on px to the end, and hopefully that works. Yeah, so we can see now that that's being positioned 20 pixels from the left. And so now we're going to do the same thing for the top. So we'll just copy and paste that. Change that to top, change this to start top. And then we should be able to see that being 100 pixels down from that header there. Cool. So far so good, that's working. We are able to grab those initial options we've created here and supply them to our directive and have that position the button. You could also specify these dynamically. If you surround these in square brackets and create a binding to some option in the home.ts file, you could change these or set these up dynamically. If you're unsure on how those sort of property bindings work, I'll link to a video separately that you can watch about that. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is to be able to drag the button. Now we can position it, now we need to drag it and then update its position relative to that drag. So I'm just going to clean this up a bit, get rid of these console statements first, and then what we're going to do is add the host property to the directive here. And this is something I've also done a bit of a video on before if you want to check it out, so I'll link to that. But essentially with the host we can listen to an event that is happening on the host element. And so the event we want to listen for is pan. This is just an event that's available by default, and again I have another video that talks about some gestures and different types of events we can listen for if you want to look at that. But hopefully we should be able to listen for pan here and then have some function in here handle that. So we'll just call it handle pan, why not? And we'll also pass in the event to that. So we'll just specify handle pan here, pass in the event, and then we'll just log that out here to see if it is working. So we'll save that, jump back in. I actually have no idea if this is going to work or not, but hopefully it will. Alright, so if I grab this and try to drag it now, cool. It looks like we're getting some stuff. So as we're sort of panning this, we're getting everything logged out to the console here. We're getting the pan event data, and we get a whole bunch of values here. Some of which of these we're going to need to use to update the position. So looking through these, it looks like perhaps the center property here might be a good one to use to change the position. So we'll change the left value to this X here, and then the top value to Y. So we'll give that a go and we'll see what that looks like. So we're not really going to worry about doing any kind of optimizations just now. We just want to see if we can get something working. So I'm going to grab that, center object. So that'll be event.center.x or .y. So we'll just do that again, make sure we're getting the correct value here. Cool, so I'm getting a bunch of X values there. That looks good. So I'll do that a bit slower. So if I drag slowly over to the right, that's annoying. Go away. Okay, I can't drag slowly. Do it a bit faster. Yeah, so we can see as I drag over to the right, the values increase. So that looks like it's probably what we want to use. Okay, so now we're just going to do this same idea again where we're setting the element style. So I'm just going to grab the left one here. Actually, I'll grab both of those. paste that there, and then we'll just, instead of using the start left and start top, we'll use the center values. So event.center.x for the left, and then event.center.y for the top. So we'll save that and we'll try and drag it around and see what happens. Okay, so it looks like we can drag it. Some stuff is happening. There's definitely some weirdness going on here. I guess the there's some kind of offset values going on. I saw it just a second ago. It popped up to the top left. I'm not sure what's causing that. So that's there's a bit of weird behavior going on with attempting to use the center to set the position. So maybe we'll just try a different tactic instead. And what we'll try and use is the delta x and delta y, the changes in the pan. So we'll keep track of how much it's panned and then update the current values based on that. So what I'm going to do is keep track of what the current position is. So I might just create I'll create one object here called current position, and I'm just going to set that to whatever the start left and start top is. So I'll give it a default value of with x and y values of just 0 and 0 to start off with, and in here we'll just set that to our initial start value. So set that to x as this dot start left and y as this dot start right. And let's just take another look at that event there to see what values we want to use. I'm gonna have to change that to this dot current position too, sorry. Alright, let's jump into the browser. And for some reason I keep saying start right. What I mean is start top. Okay, so let's take a look at this event again and see what else we can find. So I think the approach I'm going to try to take originally is grab these, just grab the delta x and the delta y values and add that on to whatever the current position is. So we'll come into here and we'll just create, say, a new, I should call it a new left. I shouldn't really call it x and y. I might change that. No, I'll leave it. So I'll say new left equals, so this dot current position dot x plus whatever the delta x was. So we can grab that through event dot delta x. So do ev dot delta x, and we'll do the same for the new right equals this dot current position dot y plus event dot delta y. And so then we're going to use those values, and here instead we'll set left to new left, and I did it again, new right. That should be new top. We'll set this one to new top. And then we're also going to want to update that current position object as well, so it can be updated properly next time. So we'll set the current position to new left and new top. So save that, jump back into the browser, and hopefully we have some good things happening. Alright, I'm going to try drag it now, and something is happening, but definitely not a good thing. Alright, so I'm just going to keep a watch on the button here, so we can see what the values are currently there. So let's try drag it and see what's going on there. And it looks like we are getting absolutely huge values. It's converted to scientific notation, it looks like. So that is why we can't see the button, because it is getting set to some huge value. So let's try and figure out why that isn't doing exactly what we want it to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to log out the left values, and we'll see what they look like. And I'm also just going to comment out this event, otherwise it's going to spam the screen. Alright, so I try to drag that again, and you can see we just have this, I can see what's happening. looks like we're concatenating the string instead of using instead of adding the numbers together, we're adding strings of numbers together. So say here if that's I'm not sure actually what these numbers are, but say that's 20 and 11, and then it's like plus 14, so it adds 14 to the end, then it adds 16 to the end of that, then 21 to 23, and so on. So we get this quite beautiful looking actually little cascade of numbers growing. It is definitely not what we want to do. So what I might do is just add in a parse int to turn it into an integer. We'll see if that sorts that problem. So we definitely have something better going on now, but we still have the button just flying off screen. It looks like if I just drag that a little bit, seems to be moving a lot more than I'm actually dragging. So, and let's also see if I can move. Whoa. It does move to the left if I drag to the left. I'm not actually sure what's going on here. This looks a little bit funky. We'll bring up that event again and take a look and make sure we're not doing anything too weird. Alright, so I've been having a little bit of a play around here, and I've decided to keeping track of the current position, not working so well. So I'm changing that. I'm going to get rid of this current position idea here. Get rid of that as well. And what I'm using instead is just the pointer value for wherever the mouse is currently on screen, which seems to be quite accurate. So I'm going to use that for now. So if I come into here again. So if I just try to drag this now, we have a similar issue before where it's not dragging exactly where we're actually touching, but it's a lot smoother. We don't have any strangeness with it resetting back to the top left. I'm not sure why that was happening, but this seems quite reliable, this event. And I think what is happening here is that because we're using the X and Y value of the pointer, that's going to, the mouse pointer, that's going to be relative to the screen. And now the absolute positioning though is relative to this container we're in. And so this header bar isn't really taken into account. So when I'm dragging, it looks like that's about the distance that the button is below where I'm actually clicking, is the distance of the header. So I think that's what's causing this issue. So we've got to come up with some way to solve that. Now, before we jump into coming up with a solution for that, let's check that that is actually the problem. An easy way to do that is going to be just to get rid of the header. So get rid of that, and we'll see if it is a problem. And yeah, it looks like that is the problem. So if I do it now, you can see it's dragging from the top left of that button there, and we don't have that issue where it's floating a little bit below the pointer. So again, the question now is, how do we fix that? Right now, I don't know. I'll have a bit of a think, because we want to solve it in a way that's adaptable, that works in all situations. We don't want to just say we don't just want to say hard code in some kind of offset value for the header. Because then if we don't have a header, it's not going to work, or if we have a different size header, it might not work, or if we want to use this inside of some small container on the page somewhere, it's not going to work. So we want to come up with some solution that is that works in most circumstances. So I'm just going to bring the header back so we can have a play around with that. And what my current thinking now is there's definitely going to be room for improvement for this directive, but I don't want this video to drag out too long. So my current thinking is to just have this button be positioned relative to the entire screen, not just the content area that it's in. This will make it less adaptable in the sense that if you did want to have some little small sub-container or something and then have it be positioned relative within that, it's not going to work as well. But for now I just want to get a working example, and then perhaps I can expand on it in the future. So let's take a look at the structure of the page here. Okay, so just having a poke around in here, looks like what's causing the issue is the margin top for the scroll content. So this is added automatically to account for the header, so that the scroll content, say if you add a list to the page here, it's not going to, the scroll is going to start at the bottom of the header. It's not going to scroll underneath that. And so what we can do to change that behavior is, I mean, we could just get rid of that margin there manually, but there's also an attribute we can use, which I believe is full screen. So if I add full screen here and save that, hopefully that should get rid of that margin on the scroll content. So let's just check if that's gone. Scroll content, cool. So now it's padding instead of margin. So if I grab this now, you can see we don't have that issue anymore. We can just drag it, and it drags from the top left corner of the button rather than having that margin which was pushing it down a little bit. So this mostly works now. Again, tons of room for improvement for this, but we do have the basic functionality there now. And one more important thing though that I want to get into before I end the video is about how bad this is. This is really inefficient in the way that it's updating the DOM. It is updating it every single time we get one of those pan events. So as you can see, the screen was just flooded with events, and we're trying to update the DOM every single time we get one of those, and it looks like it works fine in the browser, but I bet if you were to run that on an older Android device, or maybe even on the iPhone it might not work so well. You'll just see that it will struggle. So instead, we want to make use of the DOM write. The DOM write event I was talking about before, which allows us to basically tell Ionic to handle it, and the framework will schedule that update so that it's efficient. So when the parallax example, I could grab the DOM write is sort of provided through the scroll event itself, so we can easily do that. We don't have access to that through the pan event here, but what I can do is import the DOM controller from the Ionic library. I can then inject that into the constructor. So I'll just inject that as a DOM controller. And then in this handle pan event, before we perform this update here, we want to run that inside of the DOM write event, or rather the DOM write handler. So to do that, we can just run this .dom controller .write, and then we just specify the code that we want to run efficiently. So I'm just going to chuck this into here, save that, and we'll jump back into the browser again and hope that everything still works. I can get rid of that console log statement too. Okay, so let's try drag it now. And why are we getting that issue back again? Did I change that? Oh, now I am just very confused. It looks like our scroll content has the margin at the top again. Not sure why that's come back. Still have the full screen attribute there. Yes, I'm not sure what happened there, but yeah, I guess tried to turn it off and turn it on again approach, and it works now. So that's good. So we have this basic sort of functionality completed now. We're using the DOM write so that we're not updating it very inefficiently, and everything seems to be working okay for now. There's still a lot more to test and a lot more to do. Ideally, I'd want this to be a bit more adaptable. I got to test it on actual devices to make sure that it works. I'm not entirely sure that using this really is the best approach either. There might be a better way to grab those X and Y values, but I just sort of wanted to get the basic prototype working and to show you how I might go about doing that. I feel, well, most of my videos aren't scripted per se, but usually I do know what I'm doing beforehand. I wouldn't just jump into creating something with nothing but a vague idea in my head, which is exactly what I did in this video. Because I feel like in seeing a lot of people, I guess people like me who are creating tutorials, I might come across that we just know everything off the top of our heads and can do absolutely everything without ever having to Google anything or research anything. But I guess I just kind of wanted to show you that sometimes, for me as well, it's a bit of a messy process sometimes to try different things and hopefully get something that works eventually. And now that I do have this sort of basic working prototype, I can continue sort of improving this and coming up with a better way to do it. But I guess the concept is there. It works in general. So what I'll probably do is I'll follow this up with another a written blog post, and I'll perhaps expand on this a little bit, clean it up a bit, and I'll give a more thorough sort of walkthrough of how to build something like this in that blog post. So likely by the time this is up, that blog post will already be out. So I'll probably link to that from the description of this video, and you can go check that out. So hopefully this video wasn't too choppy and changey. Hopefully it flowed alright and you learned something from it. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you on the next one.